I am so glad that everyone's here. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Harper. I'm a member of the Prince George's County Lynching Memorial Project. And I want to welcome you to the award ceremony for students who won the Equal Justice Initiative Essay and Creative Arts contests. I want to thank the Greenbelt Black History and Culture Committee for hosting this event, the Prince George's County Lynching Memorial Project and Equal Justice Initiative sponsored this event. Joe's Movement Emporium and the Prince George's chapter of the NAACP are co-sponsors of this creative arts contest. Also, thanks goes to the City of Greenbelt Parks and Recreation Department, Mayor Emmett Jordan, and the Greenbelt Access TV station. There are handouts in the back, fact sheets, and another member, Pat Neal, took a lot of time doing the trifold and the binders. So hopefully people can go through those. And now this is Leyla Beatty.
As Sarah said, I am Leyla Beatty. I am one of the co-secretaries of the Prince George's County's Lynching Memorial Project. And I don't know if we recognized all of the project members.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so if you can just raise your hand.
I don't know all their names.
We don't know all the names, but if you see the hands raised, my other co-secretary and Lois with Greenbelt. Is that Donna? And Jade. Oh, Jade, okay. And so we're pleased to see you here. We're gonna just give you a little short introduction to us. We're the Prince George's County Lynching Memorial Project, and we can advance here, and you'll see the significance of those jars. And this is what our mission is. We are a diverse volunteer grassroots organization formed in March of 2019, and we work to advance the cause of reconciliation in our county by documenting the history of racial terror lynchings, advocating for public acknowledgement of these murders, and working to honor and dignify the lives of the victims. This is our mission, to educate the public about the truths of our nation's contributing legacy of the institution of slavery and its impact on enslaved persons and their descendants, to memorialize victims of racial terror lynchings, and to advance the call of racial justice and reconciliation. And so for those people who might say, why lynching? The greater cause is justice, and are recognizing that we need to move to a more just society. We envision a county that, hopefully not in the too distant future, a county that is just and a true democracy. Nearly 6,500 racial terror lynchings have occurred and have been documented in America between 1865, the time after the Civil War, to 1950. At least 40 of those were in Maryland, 4 of which were in Prince George's County. These are the ones that we know about. And we know that there were many, many more. Most of them were Black men, but people of all other races were included in there, and women were also lynched, including a woman who was lynched along with her son. Okay. No one has ever been held accountable for these murders. The good news is that after 100 years and many attempts, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill was passed this past year. When we start our meetings, we call the names of people who have been lynched in our county. And you can see their names here. And I invite you to call their names with me. We're just going to say the names and not where they were murdered in the county. Thomas Juris, John Henry Scott, Michael Green, Stephen Williams. May they rest in peace. The next slide is a lot of our work is based on the work done by Bryan Stevenson. Are most of you familiar with his work? The movie Just Mercy. He works for criminal justice reform, ending the death penalty, or getting people off who are innocent. I started with this quote: "Somebody has to stand when other people are sitting. Somebody has to speak when other people are quiet." And these are just pictures of youth in other counties and other places who have participated in essay contests. This is a jar of soil taken from lynching sites, and it is in museums, and we're trying to get that in our county as well, and getting memorial plaques so that people cannot forget and know the truth of our history, because truth will lead us, hopefully, to justice. Truth can be very painful, but it's also very freeing. And our youth today are speaking. They're speaking through their essays, they're speaking through their art, and that's what we're trying to encourage, to have a young set of people who are attuned to the issues of injustice and who will lead us to perhaps that vision that we have of what America and Prince George's County can be. All right, I think that's all. We are hoping that you will be open to receiving emails from us, but if you're interested in our work, maybe there's another one. You can get involved with us. We're going to have a soil collection ceremony for Mr. Jurek in the fall of 2022. We're going to have, I think it's already on our website, a kind of a documentary about him that you can go to. We're looking for information about descendants of lynching victims in our county. There will be public hearings on that. We're the only state in the country that actually has formed a commission to study this issue. And they're conducting public hearings on people who are descendants of lynching victims, people who were perpetrators of, and knew about perpetrators, or people who had somehow witnessed that. So if you have any information on that, let us know. All right, join us in this work. Thank you so much for your attention.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Greenbelt. This is a very special place, and we are a bit chauvinistic about our city, but this is a great city. We're glad you're all here, and we'd like to introduce you to our mayor, Mr. Emmett Jordan.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Emmett Jordan. I'm mayor of the city of Greenbelt. Joined here, one of my colleagues, Rick Gordon, Councilman Gordon, is also here. So I'm honored to welcome you here to Greenbelt this afternoon. Want to definitely acknowledge Greenbelt Black History and Culture Committee for hosting this program here. We are fortunate to have a lot of facilities here in Greenbelt, so we are always pleased to be able to actually host a program such as this in Greenbelt. The city of Greenbelt, we've got a complicated history. We were formed in 1937 as a New Deal project to provide affordable housing. It was sort of a self-contained community, affordable housing after the Great Depression. So at that time, although African Americans helped to build this city, we were not allowed to actually live here. And that was the custom, the practice, by the federal government, by the state, and by the county for a long time. Now, we've evolved just as the rest of the country has evolved, but we still have a ways to go. So the Black History and Culture Committee and the good people throughout Greenbelt are all working together. We do have a community pledge here that we all try and live by. And I'm going to read this because it's this. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. Through that celebration, all people, by sharing together, we're all enriched. I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. So, seriously, these are difficult times that we're living through. And with COVID and all of the isolation, it makes it even more difficult. So I really want to acknowledge and thank the lynching project, Prince George's County Lynching Project, for actually organizing this program, the co-sponsors, Joe's Movement Emporium, NAACP, for all working together. But most of all, I want to acknowledge each of you, the students and the parents of the students, for taking the time to participate and heightening awareness around racial justice. So on behalf of the City of Greenbelt and all residents here, I want to congratulate you and thank you for coming today. Thank you very much.
Now we get to hear from our student voices. I'm really thrilled about this. I already gave the quote about how we rely on the voices and actions of our young ones. We've historically done that for change. And those voices come in many forms. We rely on them to tell the truth and to lead us to a better future. I really like Lucille Clifton, who was the African American Poet Laureate for the state of Maryland for a while. And she has lots of quotes that I like. But one is that she says, writing is a way of continuing to hope. And perhaps for me, it is a way of remembering I am not alone. And I think that your voices gives us hope, whether it's through spoken word, creative arts, the essay contest, the thought and the thoughtful exploration of issues gives us hope to know that we have people who can lead us into that better future. So I get the first one up is Miso. Miso, is it Avitria? Is with the essay contest, and she's a student at Charles Herbert Flowers High School.
Good afternoon. My name is Misa Abitria, and I'll be reading my essay named America's Avarice. These slaves didn't just represent wealth in America, they were wealth. Ever since African Americans were introduced to America, they suffered a fate as mere objects or property. The Black community faced many hardships and was deprived of their rights, opportunities, and life, the natural rights given to man. A concerning matter that impeded the economic status and advancement of Black Americans is inequalities in the financial policy. These events occurred because of former cases that affected the African American population. These economic injustices continue to persist in society today. Despite so, activists such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Alicia Garza have brainstormed and executed their solutions to end racial injustice. An economy is an ongoing process of consumer consumption and production. People in business tend to thrive in this area because of many skills like marketing. They would take any opportunity to make money. For instance, on February 4th, 1846, the Alabama state legislature created a system that leased Black people to work for them. The system of convict leasing became one that forced primarily Black people who were incarcerated, some convicted of minor or trumped-up charges, to work in hard, dangerous conditions for no pay. This practiced until World War II. The contract was one-sided, where Party A, a white man, receives all the profit while Party B works and receives nothing. In this period, regardless of one's status, freed or not, a Black person is treated as a slave in any white premises. In other words, the white community manipulated the situation where they forced African Americans to work for them. Nothing was given to the workers. Accordingly, there have been economic disparities regarding racial income, explicitly the white and Black races. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, a document that prohibited any form of discrimination based on race, gender, religion, color, and so on, encouraged the embarking of the economic progress of other races. According to a study by Robert Manduka, he analyzed that from 1968 to 2016, African Americans made real, albeit incomplete, progress up the income distribution. Racial disparities in income rank narrowed by about 30%, but the moderate progress in rank terms was negated by changes to the national income distribution. The that reduced earnings among the poor and middle classes compared to the very rich. The overall ratio of median black to white family income remained roughly constant, meaning that despite the efforts of black Americans in increasing their earnings, it was futile because there was no change. Essentially, the income inequality of major subgroups has risen concurrently. Therefore, the financial gap before and during the mid-1900s remained unchanging. The white and rich prevails today. Likewise, the Afro-American society continuously suffered major tribulations that affected their economic status in America. The underlying cause was the arrogance and the superiority complex of the whites. For example, on July 23, 1942, Governor Frank M. Dixon and other obstinate officials were adamant in refusing to sign a contract that would possibly better the lives of the minorities. When a non-discrimination clause was introduced into a contract with the Defense Supplies Corporation, white politicians throughout the South launched a massive campaign to resist the erosion of segregated working conditions, even if it meant hindering U.S. defense efforts. White people will stop a race from being successful in any way by all means necessary. During these times, those of white descent portrayed characteristics of an iconoclast, a person who attacks the beliefs of others or institutions. Correspondingly, ethnic groups face various complications in America. There has been an ongoing epidemic that has impacted many industries and every person in the world. An article, Racial Economic Inequality Amid the COVID-19 Crisis, states that Black Americans experience gaps and receive lower returns due to labor market discrimination. Also, Black households receive the short end of the stick of government programs due to disproportionate distribution, thus demonstrating how history repeats itself, the discriminatory distribution of government aid and employment. Given that the history of America had unforgiving, unfortunate mistakes and proceeded to commit them repeatedly, there is hope in the future. By establishing or amending laws that provide leverage to workers with higher income volatility, increasing the chances of financial stability. The history of economic prejudice can be overcome through passing laws and educating others about these discriminating policies. Possible solutions can also include regulating the income system to become more progressive or increasing wages. All in all, there is always a solution to every problem. Much throughout history, we as a society have been affected by the overlying consequences of past events. Joyner Lucas's song, I'm Not Racist, expressed controversial matters in an insensitive and misinterpretive way. Please excuse me for my crude words. Like you was picking cotton off the fucking ground back then. And I work my ass off and pay my taxes for what? So you can keep living on free government assistance. Lucas's message was that everyone is equal, but matters such as race, religion, and such divided the world. However, his approach is on topics like racism and financial inequality is inappropriate. White supremacy and arrogance have affected the wealth gap in minority groups and subjected them to unhealthy stereotypes. I learned that this song represents how non-marginalized groups manipulated events and words to their advantage while impeding the success of minorities. In brief, the prejudice and bigoted views have made the Black community suffer. Economic disparity is present even in today's world. However, the past does not determine the path as we as a society will take at the moment. The moment the world decides to advance will determine the economic growth we can discover.
I've read a lot of graduate theses, and they don't rival that. It's a wonderful work on a difficult subject to cover. Okay. All right. Chase is here, Rankin Chase. Okay. So our next presentation is going to be from Chase Matthews, who is one of our creative arts.
Hello everyone, my name is Chase Matthews and I'll be reading my poem titled Hoodie. Hoodie lies curled in his drawer. Night rushes by, ushering in dawn. The drawer slides out. Hoodie is unfurled in the sweet, tickling, shining tongues of the sun. His arms are filled with the body of his person. His hood, his lion's mane, falls free. Matched up with his friend's pants and shoes, they are all ready to leave. Walking down the street, Hoodie sees more of his brothers and sisters. Clearly, he knows his colors and his mane are the best. Everyone else had better stay in their lanes. Hoodie's pride and joy, his hood, is slowly pulled up, covering the brown face of his person. Now Hoodie stands tall and proud. The entire world is his place. Everyone else was just living in it. However, the world was not in his favor. They are scared of his flavor, and especially his brown caretaker. Suddenly, Hoodie is slammed into the ground. Dazed and confused, his confidence is replaced with fear. With a knee in his back, his arms are jerked back and bound together. Hoodie's face is pressed into the ground, stained with dirt and blood. What's this? His hood, his lion's mane, his claim to fame is ripped off of his person's face and left tattered to hang in the wind. Hours later, after cop cars, mugshots, and jail cells, the cold metal restraints are removed. However, it is too late. They've ripped and torn. Their unforgiving teeth have done their harm, and like an animal on a farm, Hoodie and his person are left all alone. Throughout the night, Hoodie keeps his person warm, promising this time he will keep him safe from harm. Morning comes, cell doors clang, metal doors go bang. The sunlight kisses Hoodie and his person once again. Shoe strikes up a pace, moving them far away from the place of the paddy wagons. Finally, home safe, free from strafe, Hoodie is slid up over a bruised and bloodied body. Hoodie is left on the bed alone with nobody. He listens in on a phone call. His person, the one he holds dear, has made it clear that it is Hoodie's fault. His hood, his claim to fame, his lion's mane had made his person look suspicious, look like he was the taker. Hoodie feels like a faker. He doesn't feel cool. Instead, he feels like a fool. One wash and one dry later, he is clean. His gleam no longer brings his person a smile. Instead, he is folded, given a sniff, one last whiff. Night falls, drawer calls, into the dark and brief he falls. For years, he sits there wondering the next time he will be the safest fit. Thank you very much.
Who is right? Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciated that. Okay. The next presentation is recorded from Jamie Womack, who was part of the essay contest. Just give us a minute to pull it up.
Hi, my name is Jamie Womack. I am 16 years old and I attend Charles Herbert Flowers High School. Today, I will be reading my essay titled Lynching in America, and I truly do hope you all enjoy it. Thank you so much for your time, and let's get into it. Lynching in America has been a consistent problem. There are many historic events that have left a mark on the African American community. Not only are there many historical events, we know that lynching is not as bad as it used to be, but white supremacy and forms of lynching still occur in present times. Although this has been a part of an ongoing racial problem, there are ways both you and I can help make a change. In my essay, these 3 topics will be covered. Everyone knows about lynching and historical events that involve lynching. There's the story about Emmett Till, the young boy who was abducted, beaten, and lynched to death by white men. There's another story about Jesse Washington. Jesse Washington was lynched by members in a crowd and was soon burnt to death. One story I want to touch on is the lynching of a 15-year-old boy named Willie James Howard. Willie and his father were both kidnapped from their home because Willie sent a love letter to a white man's daughter. Willie and his father were taken to a river where Willie was told to jump or get shot. Willie's father watched his son jump into the river. The next day, Willie's body was found. There was no justice for the family of Willie or for Willie himself. The white men did not kill Willie's father, but 3 days later, his father and his family did fled their home. Lynching isn't as normal or as persistent as it used to be, but forms of lynching and white supremacy is still current in our present day-to-day lives. George Floyd. Everyone has heard about George Floyd, and most have even seen his story. Mr. Floyd did not die because of lynching. He died due to police brutality. If you make the connection, police brutality is white supremacy. The story of George Floyd is a perfect example for white supremacy. This horrible incident occurred in the year of 2020. This is the present time. Over the years, things have progressed, but the problem is still here. It will continue to be a persistent issue until a change is made. Although lynchings aren't as normal anymore, I never said they stopped. In the article of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, it talks about 5 different lynchings of people of color. The forms of lynching have been hangings, their bodies were found on display, and all of these investigations either involved African Americans or Hispanic Americans. Let's get into these cases. When people see their community and what they're going through, such as racism or lynchings, fear is being striked into these communities. People worry about the possibility of this happening to them. Although cases that we are about to go over have been marked as suicides, the crime of lynching is still on the table. The first case is of a 17-year-old African American found outside of an elementary school hanging in Houston, Texas. The second case is of 2 African American men found hanging on trees in California. The 2 men were found 10 days apart from each other. The third case is of an African American man who was found hanging in California as well. He was only 38 years old. Lastly, in Manhattan, a man was found hanging from a tree. He was only 27 years old. These events occurred around or after the death of Mr. Floyd. Present times. When is a change going to come? That has been a question a lot of communities have been asking for many years. These communities want real change, an actual change, not a small change or just in the moment change. An everlasting change is needed for these communities to feel safe, to feel that walking to the store at night is safe and doesn't feel like they are walking to their death sentence. Racism has come a long way. Everything used to be separate, whites only, blacks only, schools, dining areas, movies, even gas stations have come a long way. The community doesn't just want to come a long way. We want to get away from that thought process and start a new one. One big way can be made through the NAACP. The NAACP will not only teach you and inform you about your past, but it gives you the opportunity to make a change. It can be from donating to help support the cause to actually joining the cause. Make a change and join the cause. In conclusion, our history has come a long way. We still have ways to go. I have never fully experienced racism or police brutality, but I do feel as if there is a target on my back. No matter how well I do in school, how good of a student or person I am, my skin color is different. My history is different, and that is a target. As a young woman who is still learning about history and learning about different stories, I know that my community is hurting, and we will continue to hurt until racism is not an issue, until we do not have a target on our back. Thank you for your time.
now welcome Ty Lansley, who is one of our creative arts.
Today I'll be presenting my poem, The Tree of Cain. Here lies its roots in a wood of old, through nature's etchings in its trunk is a murder told. A killing of her pride, limb bound in chain, others dive into paradisiacal blue, to flee the devil's pain. Homeward go the dead, hell-bound are those alive. Diminished is her vigor, bloodied are her hands, torn is the skin of the back. The length of her sentence is depicted by the owner's weapon's fraying strands. Red scarring now purple, and he shielded from further wound. Yet anguish prevailed in the woman for the child born from her womb. Merry was her heart, then devastated she again for the daughters she bore and those from after loves. Remain subject to American sin. Weeping she does for dissenting young, and pouring she does to him, for the coveted tune of the dove to be resoundingly sung. Persuasive is the hate of man over sin-prone flesh, and twisted are his lies. Listening are his ears to the Lord of Flies. The white of cloth and skin is then stained with red, the shortest rope is pulled, and girl hangs till dead. The longer still connected, still within its ties are her family's heads. And so she watches from above in pain, as countless other of her kin see that evil tree of Cain.
We're going to have one winner who we did not expect to be here. And so we're so glad that she decided to join us. And she's just going to introduce herself and the title of her work.
Hello everyone, my name is Leyla Rankin. I'm a recent graduate from Oxford High School, and the title of my essay was A New Generation of Learners, which is based on the effects of Norfolk 17 during the Jim Crow rights and them trying to get educational rights.
The essay contest winners had to really write on a specific historic event or a specific condition that exists today. So thank you for that. All right. And so our next presenter will be Chelsea Nelson, who is one of our creative arts winners.
Misrepresentation is an issue that I feel the Black community faces and is affected by in more ways than we realize. My name is Chelsea Nelson, and I'll be reciting my poem, Black Baby's First Misrepresentation. My first Black baby doll was Addie Walker, an American girl doll. Addie Walker, born on a cotton plantation. Addie Walker, my role model, characterized for bravely seeking after her freedom from enslavement and oppression. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved Addie. After all, she was determined, quick-witted, courageous. She is everything I want to be. She taught me how to be strong in the face of adversity, how to love in spite of fear, and she did it all while being denied her rights. How about that? My first Black film representation was John Coffey from The Green Mile. John Coffey, who was different because his aggressive and strong demeanor didn't match his character. John Coffey, convicted of brutally killing 2 young girls. Now, we all love The Green Mile. John Coffey taught me the importance of character and discrimination. All it takes is a digestible personality for people to consider your innocence. Socialization can't hurt. What? He was still executed. It must have been a mistake. My first Black representation was propaganda. Messages that slipped through the cracks and whispered to me that my skin wasn't good enough. They deserve choices. You don't, is what they wish they could say. Casting, portraying, forcing my complexion to look inferior is what they do. My first Black representation wasn't decided by people who look like me. My first Black representation was deceit hidden behind the oppressor's storytelling.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Anaisselafley, who is in our creative arts contest. will present.
I wrote a poem. It's called Perennial. The seed of hatred is planted thus, and lay in his heart and burgeon. And not the sweetest of words, nor winnest of world true, may wither the vines which are watered true blue. It festers there as it sprouts, leaves of loathing grow and shroud the faces of his neighbors unknown. The weeding of iris, the seedling has grown. Unfathomable is the breadth of what the inner growth entails. Lost to him is the fetid rot of its entrails. Before him, faces of brown become silt, but it grows in places of plausible guilt. Humanity dies, the sun cries, and his loves diminish few to none. The two become one. The seed is still young, its birth far from done. Roots remain in his mind's trenches, staunchly to his spirit it clinches, and for each at whom it causes him to recoil, in another it seeks furtive soil. So he gives its flowers to his contiguous, and the seed of hatred is planted thus.
Thank you. We will now hear from Stephanie Azuki. Stephanie? Okay. Stephanie is the winner. This is her. She was not able to join us. Her sister, Diana is going to present her sister's work. Come with family, spirit, and support, huh? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to be presenting Bygone and Still Burning. This is a one-sided historical narrative that has sprung up throughout the years, sowing seeds of doubt which connive and convince the populace that American history and Black history stand apart from each other. Because of America's harrowing past, as such, a revisionist history persists, and institutions both embrace and condemn privilege just as they allow it to permeate. Through these facades, people become convinced that racial injustice has been buried as effectively as America's true, ugly history is. Yet, as we navigate through smokescreen stories which detail tragedies like the Elaine, Arkansas massacre of 1919 take shape, we see the signs of prolonged ignorance. Black people ask why they are assaulted by Black officers, why they are persecuted by institutions which have promised to protect and serve. It is in times like these that the effects of racial injustice in both past and present are made clear. When Black citizens were slaughtered by the state in Elaine, their skin was just as pigmented as those killed today by state institutions. The despicable truth is that state violence has become a norm within American society, thereby directly resulting in injury to Black Americans, consistent violations of the constitutional rights of Black Americans, and creating societal norms rooted in implicit bias, which suggests that it is fine to brutalize Black people. Elaine was a sleeping town in Phillips County, Arkansas, where state violence reared its head and claimed the lives of over 100 African Americans. On September 30th, 1919, the violent actions of state officials were justified by the paranoia of the town's white farmers. The state sided with the white mobs, decimating Black men, women, and children alike, all victims of Eurocentric racism spurred by Black farmers' willingness to organize and discuss ways of acquiring better payments for their cotton crops. This massacre is but one pillar of police brutality in modern society, a foundation upon which the greater institutional disease could be built. In 2021, a Black woman protesting for the Black Lives Matter movement was trampled by a police officer's horse. Brandon Science, a 26-year-old Black man, had his left eye shattered after being shot by a police officer's less lethal projectile at a BLM protest. And a group of protesters were plowed by the police cruisers in New York while engaging in a BLM protest. All victims of state violence, and just as in Elaine, the pursuit of Black rights seemed to warrant violence from the state. In Elaine, Black people were killed, then slung to the side of the road like garbage. Since the cameras are on, Brandon Science is still breathing, and that does not change the nature of the crime. The condemnation of Black people by state officials was tolerated in 1919, and so history begot the present. Now, over a century later, it's clear that the world has not changed as much as we think it has from that period, when men, women, and children were ravaged by racial injustice due to racial differences. So, putting it plainly, as Nikki Giovanni so beautifully did, if now isn't a good time for the truth, I don't see when we'll get to it. To be constitutional is to abide by a set of principles governing a state, to be just and judicious in the treatment of all citizens. And so I ask, are America's state institutions truly constitutional? Is the violence of the state just and judicious? The First Amendment promises free speech, but the state coils ready to attack whenever Black people organize. In 1919, the state gunned down ambitious Black men who wanted enough money to remain in house and home. If such things transpire so easily, it would be ignorant to presume that the civil rights promised to Black people in the 14th Amendment held for those men, women, and children that were slaughtered in cold blood. An employee of the Arkansas Gazette recalled soldiers in a lane committing one murder after another with all the calm deliberation in the world, either too heartless to realize the enormity of their crimes or too drunk on moonshine to give a continental darn. On November 12, 1919, 12 Black sharecroppers were deemed murderers and sentenced to death in a court wrought with witness tampering, mob influence, and wash monochrome by an all-white jury. In 2020, Andre Hill was shot and handcuffed by Officer Adam Coy until he bled out and died. Are these just acts? Promises are easy to write on a piece of paper, but the genuine challenge comes in maintaining those assurances. When Black lives are reduced to bullseyes for belligerent enforcers, mere promises of equity, equality, and justice are not enough. Black rights were ignored by the state all those years in a lane, and that's why they're being ignored today. This world has been begging for change. If less time is spent denying racial difference and more time is spent addressing inequality and iniquity, you might have a fighting chance. Know that when it is said that racial difference no longer exists in America, it's far from the truth. But we can overcome this sordid past through reform and acknowledgement, training officers better so that mothers don't have to teach their Black sons how to avoid being gunned down, fighting for Black people so that they may declare in truth that all lives matter. Racial difference is a fighting issue that is not all black and white. It is now also black and blue. The names of the many victims of state violence are echoed today because of movements like Black Lives Matter. But this treacherous present-day status is forged through a treacherous past. You may not have noticed the weight of relations between Black people in a violent state until recently, but you know now. With this newfound information, you can do what you like, but you can never deny knowing ever again, because these events have bygone us, but the fires they've set are still burning.
Are we in good hands? We are in very good hands. Okay, thank you so much for all the careful research and letting us know that truth, no matter how old, still needs to be heard for us to move forward. And truth expressed in all ways, through poetry, through essays, through visual arts. We didn't have the visual artists here. They're at Watkins Park. So we have wonderful visual arts displaying, created around the topic of racial justice. All of these works will be available on our website. And actually, we've been working with schools and libraries, and we'll be in touch with all of the students. Libraries and other places want to display it within the coming year. So we'll let you know where you will be seen. Okay, now we're going to move to our awards presentation. Now, let me tell you the difference in some of the contests. The contest, the essay contest, is sponsored and supported by the Equal Justice Initiative that I talked about earlier. And they have made this a national program. And so we have had some, so they do the judging, they help with the criteria, and they also provide the support, including the scholarship money that they give. I'm going to give out those first, and then the Creative Arts Contest is something that the local project, our local project, developed. This will be the first year for both of these contests for us. And we are giving out scholarship money as well. We are not as wealthy as EJI, but we do appreciate, and so there is really no difference in appreciation. There was just a difference in the level of sponsorship that we were able to get for this, our first time out. And I'm not calling these out in any particular order. I'm the first one that I get to, and hopefully here. Is this Aaliyah Rankin? Okay. And Aaliyah introduced herself, I think, earlier to us. And she is the third place winner, and she's from Oxon Hill High School. I'm gonna give you this, and you can stand between them. Okay, thank you. Miso. Congratulations. Third place award for the essay contest, EJI essay contest. I'm going to announce Alyssa Liverman, who I don't believe is here. Okay. Alyssa is a second place award from, and she attends Henry A. Wise Junior High School. And we're really pleased that I think that's in Upper Marlboro, and the mayor of Upper Marlboro is going to do an acknowledgement for Alyssa as well. Okay. Stephanie Osuji and Diana. Stephanie's essay was the first place awardee.
Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt.
Okay, so the mayor. Right at home, okay. All right, now we go to the creative arts, and we have a certificate for the creative arts winners, and then we have some EJI materials for them in the back as well. No, I can give it to them in the back. Chelsea Nelson, who is our second place winner in spoken word. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Kai Lampley. Kai was our third place winner in creative writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can. Thank you. Chase Matthews. Big fan club here. Okay.
And he's homeschooled.
And Anaisselafley. Anais is our first place winner in creative writing. Okay, can we give another round of applause for all of our winners who are here today? Okay, all right.
Can all the winners come forward with your awards so we can have another picture with everyone together? One more hand.